Warning, this podcast typically features spoilers and strong opinions. Proceed with caution.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, the podcast where two lifelong storytellers who are married talk about stories. I'm Pavi Proczko, audiobook narrator, author, performer, etc.
And I'm Colin Funk. What do? I'm a childhood development expert and teaching artist.
And we have a special guest with us again today.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Sorensen, and I am an opera singer, textile artist, folk musician, and stuff.
Cool
stuff.
lady.
That's the important part.
And cool chick.
Cool chick on her CV. And today we're going to be talking about The Lord of the Rings, a musical tale.
Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Okay.
A musical tale.
A musical tale.
So it's the musical.
It is the
version
musical
of Lord
version,
of the Rings.
yes.
Lord of the Rings musical.
At Chicago Shakespeare Theater. But first, before we get into our main story, let's talk about our moments of the week.
You go ahead.
Okay. I have been, well, because Becky is visiting from France, and we've been talking about stories and stuff. We had the idea, or I had the idea to watch What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, because she hadn't seen it and she hadn't heard of it. And so we started from the beginning. Very disappointed to find out that this will be the last season. I think that's my moment where it's the episodes are coming up. It's like final season's coming. And I'm like, no! And it's very disappointing to know that it's the final chapter's coming for this story that I really like.
That's your moment?
That's it.
So I think my moment was also thanks to you, because we've been watching a lot of stuff that I've never watched before, because it's not so easy for me to get in France, or just have been living under a rock. That's more likely the reason. So we watched Taskmaster for the first time, which is this amazing British game show with comedians, and it's all on YouTube. Amazingly, all of the seasons are free on YouTube. So that was a good find.
At least in the US, I think. I'm not sure if they are all around the world, but
I think if things are on YouTube, they're.
Is it? I don't know.
I think YouTube. I don't think they changed for the world. Actually, I think that's a good thing about YouTube. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if that's actually correct, but
resident YouTube expert.
I think it was in the series 15, and I don't know if you watched this one yet, because we didn't watch it together. But the Potato Hat.
No, I don't think I did.
Oh my god!
I might have,
but it's just. I mean, the show is just so ridiculous, and they have these tasks that are so stupid.
They're so dumb. I love them so much
because they're comedians. It's also kind of improv, and it's just very silly. But there was this one called Potato Hat. And I won't spoil it, but just watch it. And just one of the contestants was so delighted by this task that it just made the show, that she was just laughing hysterically and this is the most fun I've had in years. Don't judge my British accent, sorry. And
perfect.
And it was great. And then another contestant was this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Yeah. And that was also really funny, that it was
yeah, people have such different experiences in these tasks. It's
so many opinions.
It's pretty great.
So many polarities, maybe how you felt about Lord of the Rings, the movie, and how you felt about the musical.
Yeah.
We do spoil stories, but we don't spoil the episode.
Okay, cut that out.
What?
Nothing. I'm joking.
We could just put censored over my mouth when I say that, and then have cut to you being don't spoil the episode. Or not. Well, we don't know. Okay.
That's a good moment. That's great.
That's my moment of the week.
Cool. Well, I think my moment is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because I love that show, and it can do no wrong, and it is so.
Do you
hate it?
I am really, yeah. I'm on the fence. I've been going through it now.
He's
with him.
faking though. He likes it. He's been watching it with me, and he definitely likes it now. And
we'll see.
He pretends he doesn't, but
we'll see.
He likes it for sure. It's just so. I think it's so ridiculous. It's hard not to watch, because they keep the energy throughout. I don't know. It's so good. I think it's. I can see how somebody would be stressed by it and why they wouldn't like it, but I feel once you
get desensitized.
Yeah, it's just you can't take any of it seriously. I don't know. It is just so ridiculous. I don't know. There's an episode, they're trying to do merchandising for the bar, and and I knew about kitten mittens before I had even seen the show because somebody in college was like, knew that I was a knitter. It's one of the first things I ever knit was like a set of kitten mittens for someone because they were like, I want kitten mittens.
Are kitten mittens like, what is that? Like
so
mittens for your cat?
Yeah. So that is like one of the things they try to merchandise in Always Sunny. Like one of the characters is like, we're going to sell Patty's Pub branded kitten mittens. And it's just like, because he has this whole commercial about kitten mittens. And it's like this cat like walking around with these mittens on and just like
stupid.
Hating life because cats hate having things on their feet.
Yeah.
But it was like somebody asked me to knit them a pair of kitten mittens. So I had known about kitten mittens before this episode, but like watching it, it always makes me laugh because that stupid kitten mittens commercial is so funny on its own. Like it's so stupid and so funny. And then there's just like this moment in the show, they're like presenting all these like stupid ideas for merchandising. They have like the dick towel is one of them, and the shotgun, which is just like a gun to shoot
liquor
alcohol into your mouth. It's a shotgun.
Yeah.
And then Frank, played by Danny DeVito, is like, this is a stress ball. You know, this is Patty's Pub stress ball. And one of the other characters goes, let me see that. And he grabs it, squeezes it like a stress ball, and it's an egg. And essentially,
just an egg.
Just screams about it. He's like, God damn it, it's just an egg. And Dangerfield's like, yeah, well, that's just a jumping off point. Like he's just like made a prototype of a stress ball by dyeing an egg green. It's so stupid. It is so
and
so
Dennis
dumb.
gets so mad about it. Oh
and it makes me laugh so hard. It's so dumb. And yeah, the character gets so mad. He squeezes it, and it's just an egg. That's my moment. It's just so funny. It's so stupid. I love it.
Thank you for your moments of the week. Moving on, let's go to our switch hit synopsis. Let's see how we can do this one.
Let's keep it simple.
You
because it's
probably know the plot.
Generally, like it's Lord of the Rings. Frodo takes the ring to
Mordor, but we're gonna try to do it.
It's the full. Okay, so on stage, it is the full trilogy on stage.
Taking the ring to Mordor.
Taking the ring to Mordor.
Yeah. So, but let's try to do it. Let's try to do the synopsis as the plot points as presented to us on the stage at Chicago Shakespeare.
We start at Bilbo's birthday party.
Yeah.
Bilbo puts a ring on and disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
And then, sort of.
That's what they tell us.
They do. Yes, that's what we are told to believe that.
And leaves the ring to Frodo 17 years later.
Yes, 17 years later. So 17 summers later.
Gandalf
shows up and he's like, do you have that ring? He's like, I do. And he's like, that is the one ring.
All right, we got to bring it to...
Got to take it to Mordor.
No.
Oh, got to take it to Rivendell.
Yeah, got to take it to Rivendell.
Got to take it to Rivendell.
Yeah.
And they start going, and then Merry and Pippin are like, we're going to come to...
Sam
first.
So the hobbits all go together.
They all go.
They run into...
They stop at the inn.
Yeah. Well, they run into elves first, and then they stop at the inn.
Oh, yeah. And then they stop at the inn, and they meet Strider, a.k.a. Aragorn.
Uh-huh.
And they keep going.
Frodo's like putting the ring on.
Oh, yeah, because he puts on the ring, and then the things come.
And the things come. The dark
riders.
The Nazgul in the movie, at least. I don't know if they gave him the name in the musical. I don't remember. But then they're sort of being chased. They finally make it to Rivendell. While, meantime, Gandalf is having a chat with Saruman, the head of his order.
Quick little
chat to be like, hey, we need help. And Saruman's like, no, what we're going to do is we're going to take the ring and we're going to use its power against the dark.
And we're going to pretend to be part of the dark in the process.
Yeah.
And Gandalf's like,
and he's like, I don't know about that. And he's like, but you don't have a choice. I'm going to imprison you. And so he does. And then they get to Rivendell finally, where after like Frodo's been like stabbed, and then he's going to be like healed there. Mm-hmm. But inexplicably, Gandalf is also there.
Yeah, he like escapes, but we don't really
by
get how.
means, yes, by means that Saruman doesn't know, I left.
And
we're like, oh, okay.
He said like allies that I have.
Yeah, something like that.
Beyond his control or something. I was like, okay. So then in Rivendell, there's like all the people are gathered. They decide what they're going to do with the ring. They're going to take it to Mordor. And so you've got Legolas joins them, Gimli, Legolas the elf, Gimli the dwarf,
Boromir
of the men, of the humans.
Strider.
Yeah, and Strider goes with, and then...
and Gandalf and Merry and Pippin.
And the
Sam.
hobbits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then there's like weird stuff between Aragorn and Arwen.
Yeah, there's like a little meet up there.
Very
Little
short.
weird
They start
meet-up,
introducing this like weird love story. And then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And
They go through the mines. Nice.
they like get caught up in like the snow or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have to go through the mines. And so they go through the mines of Moria.
Mm-hmm.
And during a break there, after like Gandalf has his big like philosophical moment with Frodo, Pippin, Merry, so one of them throws
Pippin.
I think it's Pippin.
a rock down the well and wakes up the Balrog.
Mm-hmm. Then
As
Gandalf
represented by a giant
fights the Balrog while they all escape.
They all escape. They lose Gandalf, and then they have to figure out what they're gonna do. But they're being chased by orcs.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide to split up
So they go to
because they want to go.
They have to go to
Men to
Lothlorien
get the-
first. So they make it to Lothlorien. Yeah.
do that first.
And then in Lothlorien, Galadriel gives a bunch of gifts to them. Then they move on and start going, but they're being chased by the orcs. So then they have to split up from there.
Yeah, because they want to like go get the help of the men in Gondor.
Gondor, I suppose.
But-
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. So then it splits up, and the hobbits, Merry and Pippin, go find the Ents. The Sam and Frodo run into Gollum, who leads them into Mordor, and then Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli head down to the men.
Boromir.
And Boromir. Well, Boromir dies.
Boromir does. Yeah.
And so then he dies there, and Strider promises him, I'm going to go down to your kingdom where your father is the steward of my kingdom. So he goes down. They find the men who, like, this leader, the steward, is asleep or slumbering or something, but he's like not, but he's also like has foresight, has seen that Boromir is dead. But they save the kingdom from the orcs. And then the Ents agree with Pippin and Merry to like fight off.
Isn't that where Strider like reveals himself too?
Yeah, that is where Strider reveals
that's
himself
true.
as the king, as the heir to the throne with like the
heir
broken
of Gondor,
sword.
Yeah.
Merry
And
and Pippin find the Ents.
Merry and Pippin find the Ents. The Ents agree to help them take down Saruman,
and then
Sam
and Frodo with
get
Gollum are
led to the spider lady.
Mhm.
They get away from the spider and make their way up to the Mount Doom. The Ents.
There's the big battle.
There's the big battle. The Ents defeat Saruman, and Gandalf inexplicably comes back to life and is like, I am
White.
going to break your staff, Saruman,
Mhm.
because I am now Gandalf the White instead. And then Saruman like leaves and apparently causes trouble in Hobbiton later. But then
I thought it was just previously.
I think it's after. It's like, I don't know. Time is weird.
I thought it had happened.
I thought it didn't yet.
They added
Then,
this.
that he's like, I'm going to go cause trouble later. And they're like, he's going to cause trouble later. And then when like at the end, when they finally are able to, well, okay. So then they go to battle Sauron in Mordor, and
But that doesn't really happen. That battle doesn't happen.
doesn't
There's like a
actually happen.
battle
Everyone
sort of
see it,
happening
yeah.
while
while
there's a dance.
There's a dance.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then Frodo is like,
This-
they're finally
one
at
of the songs-
they're
so only
finally at
because this
the place to like.
Yeah,
toss
like
the
Mount
thing-
Doom,
Mount
to like
Doom.
put it
Mount
in
Doom,
the
and he
where
doesn't
it's
want to.
forged.
And this is interesting, plot point, that he's like, I can't imagine a world without elves, and if I throw the ring in, it will destroy all the rings of power, which has been protecting the elves,
yeah.
and I don't want the elves to go away, so I'm going to keep the
Okay.
ring.
Yes.
I think that's actually
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Okay, we
But-
talked about that not in the synopsis.
It turns out that Gollum's like, no, I'm going to take it, and then he like takes the ring, bites the ring off his finger, and then falls into the lava. And then all of the heroes come in and they're like, you saved us. And they won, and Sauron is dead, and then they go back to the Shire, but rebuild it after Saruman has has destroyed it into like all industry and stuff.
Right.
So
And Frodo
then
decides to leave.
at the end, Frodo decides to leave with the
The
elves and
Right.
Bilbo and Gandalf to the far west land or whatever it is. The end.
Ooh.
Yay.
Oh, and the Aragorn's the king.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. So they like mushed up Rohan and Gondor into like one thing.
Yeah, let's talk about the particulars now.
Yeah. Okay.
These are
So
separate things.
What y'all think? What was your experience?
Yeah, that's mostly that explains it really.
Yeah.
A lot of like there are moments of like, oh, it's kind of like fun being in this world, but in terms of like watching a story, I was like, what are they doing?
Mhm.
Why are they smushing it all? I don't know. All in all, my experience was like, okay, it's like kind of fun to be here sometimes. In terms of like watching a story and experiencing that story in that medium, it was confusing and underwhelming at the same time.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I just had a really hard time suspending my disbelief
Yeah.
for many reasons. And one was like, there were really moments where you're like, what the hell is happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know the Lord of the Rings story very well.
I was going to
There
say,
were
like,
just
let's clarify. Like,
confusing moments.
we know.
We know it. Yeah.
Like, we've all seen
Yeah.
I read
all
it
the movies.
a long time ago.
Yeah, me too. And I've seen all the movies multiple
together.
times.
The
Yeah.
extended
Yeah.
version.
We saw it together in the
We
movie
saw-
theaters
Yeah,
when we
that's
were
how-
youngins. And
Yeah.
So
And so it's like, it's not like we saw it once 10 years ago and then are like, what happens again? It was just really like, what piece of the plot are they supposed to be doing here? And we mentioned this yesterday that like, I can't imagine seeing this as someone who doesn't know Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I just think you would be completely lost because
yeah.
it just really
Right.
wasn't clear. And it was just like them trying to like speed through
a lot of story. It's
so
like we
much.
know.
I mean, even putting all the books into 3 movies was like already like you have to cut out so much, and then trying to put the whole story into one 3-hour show
yeah,
Right.
just doesn't work. Especially when you have songs.
that don't
Especially when you have
do
songs.
anything.
Like, how stressful is it? Like, as a fan
Please,
of
go
both
there.
Lord of the Rings and of musical theater, like, I'm excited for like music in the Lord of the Rings world,
Mhm.
right? Like, I should love
There's
and be
songs
excited
all
about
over
these
those
songs.
books.
What happened though, every time I got to a song was like, oh my God, I'm stressed out because I know how much happens in the plots of all of these movies, and we don't have time for a rompin' bar pub song.
Yeah, they're just like
about
Hobbit
farm
drinking
animals.
songs.
I'm not
Yeah,
really sure
like-
what's going on, but
Yeah.
like, we don't have time for this.
Yeah.
You got to get to Rivendell. Get out of there. Like, I should not be in a musical being like, we don't have time for this song.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What? We are wasting time with this song. And I've not liked songs before in musicals,
Yeah.
but I've never been like, we don't have time for this.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
is the first time I've ever experienced that. And like, we shouldn't feel like that in a musical.
No.
The music in a musical should enhance the storytelling. And honestly, if you're doing something that's this epic, you gotta be like using the music to like be like narrating great big parts of the story.
It's
Yeah,
the sinew,
advancing the
man.
plot.
Mhm.
I mean, and
There
like,
was really like none of that.
I would say like you really need to like be really obvious about it.
It kind of felt like in the middle, like them being like, oh shit, this is supposed to be a musical. Okay, let's add a song here.
Well,
You know, it was like, but it wasn't like integrated with the story. It just seemed kind of like disjointed. Like, okay, it's supposed to be a musical. All right, let's learn a love duet for Aragorn and Arwen.
Mhm.
that
There's no time for
isn't
this.
moving
Because that's
at
the
all.
thing that
Because we didn't develop
side
this
plot is
relationship
it's
either.
not even that important.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
No.
It's like, and that's
that is
Mhm.
so, it's so frustrating because like I think it could work if it's just like, okay, this is mostly a story where we are like, okay, there was a convention at the beginning and at the end and only at these points where like hobbits come to the front of the stage and are kind of like telling us the story.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, if big parts of the story, like there were narrators, especially if we're doing this like from the perspective of hobbits telling a story.
Yeah.
Because like that's a whole piece of the story is like Bilbo's written this book about his adventures and now they could be writing this book about their adventures
Yeah.
and we could be narrating the story for the audience.
And they
That's
could have
great.
done that like while they were like traveling, you know, it could have been
Absolutely.
like, and then this happened, and then this happened. And like you can advance the plot and skip over, you know, kind of
You
like
can
rush
even
through things
have-
that aren't that important.
Right.
Like even like in the middle of a song about traveling and like arriving to Rivendell or whatever, like have like a little moment of Aragorn and Arwen coming together and just be like, okay, like these two have got something going on. But like I didn't need a love duet.
no.
We really didn't need, we didn't have time
there
for
was
that.
no time for that. There was no plot in it, and it just like wasted time.
That can't be no, we can't. And I mean like I love the song Lothlorien, but it's so long.
It's so long and it
about
didn't
this
do anything.
one place that
It's a
like
great
They weren't
song.
even at that place so long in the movies.
no.
And the whole
it
thing
took
that
so
was long
long.
was the thing between Galadriel and Frodo, which
Right.
wasn't even in the show. Like that exchange with like,
it
was
was
it really?
a little bit, yeah.
Was it a little bit? Okay.
Yeah.
See?
She just was like behaving weird, but
But
we
it was
can
like
talk
a
about
blip and like, yeah.
It was a
like,
blip. It didn't
Yeah, it
have
wasn't a
the
blip. It didn't
importance.
have impact. And like that could be something we could skip over. But
it's like I think that's a really good point about the storytelling where like I'll say first I'm like really disappointed because I thought this was going to be a reimagining of this, right? And so we know that like the first versions were the original was like a kind of like a walking musical, like you were walking through a park and like following the characters and their adventure. And then the
feels like
second one was like an arena show.
Right.
And it was huge. And I can imagine either of those working. And apparently,
and
there's
what
like
you
a
mean
lot
by
of
that
reviews
is,
where they didn't.
these are different versions of this show that have
This
already
this
existed.
particular
version
production, yeah.
of this
Yes,
musical.
so they're not different musicals. It's
Right.
the same show, but it's gone through several like,
Iterations.
very
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
iterations.
And so this was
Yeah.
supposed to be reimagining. And so compared to those, they are, but they really kind of did it straight, kind of proscenium mostly on the
Yeah.
stage, right?
Right.
And I just like the idea that they have these like storytellers, it just made me think like a really good fix. Like if you really could just go in and really rearrange things, is you make it's like the hobbits are telling this story like 100 years later. They have the book from Frodo and from Bilbo. They have their book and they're like, every year we tell this story. Because then you have even a built-in justification for one, why nobody knows exactly how Gandalf got away from Saruman, how Gandalf becomes Gandalf the White, where it's like, how did that happen? We don't know.
But you
We're
could have
hobbits.
just had
We
someone
don't know.
narrating like, and then
this thing
the magical eagle comes and saves him
Something,
from the
yeah.
tower. And like all you need is like 10 freaking seconds of narration, but instead we're just there like,
How
huh?
did it happen?
Right.
Yeah. And then
Just keep that convention going. That's the thing. Like it feels like they couldn't make up their mind. It was inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they didn't keep consistent conventions because one of the things that was clear with this iteration specifically is that they wanted to bring as much of the movie and things that were
Yes.
like identifiable from the movie as possible. And you could tell that there were like
Oh yeah.
things and
I mean, the
lines
costumes,
and
yeah.
costumes and
Especially
voices.
Gollum.
Gollum,
Yeah, the
I would
voice.
say.
Yeah, I mean, the voice of Gollum. If you close your eyes, you think you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
And I mean,
It's a
like,
good
It's a great
impression.
impression.
I mean, and the
actor was
guy, the
great.
guy was great. His physicality was like exactly like the movie, and I mean, it was impressive to watch that live because even the performance that we saw in the movies was also incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I'm
absolutely.
like, this is an imaginary world. You could have done anything. And like,
Yes.
we would have bought it if you went there. And it's just such a shame that they just ripped off exactly the movie.
Which is crazy because this, to be clear, like the original iteration of this musical predates the movie.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. So the things that they took from the movie, they added in for
That's so
this
disappointing.
version.
Yeah.
Exactly. That makes it
Yeah.
more disappointing for me.
And I I like wish that they would have done something like just going for like the comedy, because when you invited me, when you told me like, hey, when you're in town, do you want to go see Lord of the Rings the musical? I was like, hell yeah. And I was just imagining that it was going to be kind of like, I don't even know how to say
like
it.
Pottermore or something.
like-
Yeah, or just sort of like being,
musicals, right.
like being really intense and sort of like not like making
gonna be
fun,
heightened,
but
just-
kind of like
yeah.
ironic.
Mhm.
And this is why like I had made up a fake song before we went there that was just like, taking the ring to Mordor, we're taking the ring to, like, I was just imagining that this is what it's going to be. It's just going to be like these very like musical theater,
Yeah.
like, you know, like someone's idea of what musical theater is, like, as an opera singer. Oops, like, I guess that's me. Like, it could have been like really funny and campy,
Yeah,
and that
sure.
could have really worked. And unfortunately, my made up song is the only song that we were singing in the car on the way home.
That's the only one we got
very
right.
Like, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, like,
They just
really
took
not.
itself very seriously.
and the thing is,
Yeah.
I do love the idea of like tapping into these like very, like, I love musicals with like very different styles of music, and I love the idea of like old Celtic folk and traditional Indian music. Like, there's like elements that like very medieval sounding music. Like, I love taking those influences and making a musical.
Oh,
out
me
of it.
too.
Like, and so like I'm excited about like, and I like, I want more. I want more musicals that like take subject matter seriously.
Right.
Not that like I've seen lots of campified versions of things that like work very well. Musical theater is a very good. I mean, it's called musical comedy for a reason. Like,
Right.
The medium
so it's like
is perfect for it.
It lends itself very well. But I do think that like music can obviously to be taken seriously and be dramatic all the way through.
Yeah.
Obviously, yes.
Yes.
Obviously, yes.
But
I
it
was
didn't-
just like,
it didn't go either direction.
right. And I like them taking it so seriously just didn't work.
Right.
And that was sad. Like, I'm like, oh, I wish you would have like made more fun of this or something. But something that we haven't talked about we should is the music and the instruments.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god. I
And
forgot. Oh my god. I
like, we
forgot.
didn't even
There's-
talk about this.
yes,
And this
the
was a
cast
major problem
mostly
for us.
on the stage is playing the instruments. So the actors, for the most part, are all also the instrumentalists, which is, as you
very
know,
cool idea.
dear listener, Colin and I have complained about this before. I believe we really
If
hate
we
it.
haven't,
If we haven't, we
should
do it
have.
now. We're putting our line in the sand.
I
hate
really don't like it. And it's not that it never works, and it's not that it can't work.
Yeah.
But at base, it is like a flawed system.
Mhm.
Like, you are asking one performer. You're already in musical theater. You're asking for someone to sing, act, dance,
And be
do all of those at the same
the
time,
best at all three.
and
of
be
them.
at the best at all. Like,
Yeah.
and to add any sort of instrumental playing
God.
to that, let alone the many instruments each of those characters played, because each of those characters played more than one
She's playing a
instrument.
Yes.
guitar. She's playing a cello. She's playing a mandolin.
Vastly
She's playing a
different.
violin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this?
That person
Yeah.
just played a guitar, and then the drums over there. Like, I
Right.
don't. What,
This is the problem for me, because like in theory, especially as someone who like has a project of singing, accompanying myself with folk instruments,
yeah,
like when I first saw it, I was like, oh my, like I was really excited when I saw that they were all carrying instruments like before the show started. I was like, this is cool.
Mhm.
Like, this is interesting. I'm excited. It's going to be folky. I can see that from like the combinations of instruments we have there. But the thing is like, and like, I will be the first to say, as someone who like kind of does a version of this, I hope what I do works, because I'm a really, really good singer and a good enough player. You know what I mean? But like,
But
the
it's
problem
not-
with this,
it's not just.
but I'm
the-
also not running around a stage and like climbing up a fucking ladder with my ukulele singing opera. Like,
Yeah.
You
but-
are performing as a musician in both sense. You know what I mean? Like, you're not trying to like also play a character that we're supposed to suspend our disbelief watching be in a different world.
right. And then like also like being in the middle of the show, and then randomly like a character who's not supposed to be there at all being like, oh, hey, can you take this guitar for me and like give me like another instrument?
So
You're
many
like,
people,
what?
I know, and especially because of how seriously they played it so straight and realistically. So you didn't have a narrative convention that
No.
allowed us to believe that there were just like hobbits running around
No, and it
carrying
totally
instruments.
could have worked if there were some characters, some people and actors who like really could have handled it, who were like wow, okay, this person's an amazing triple threat and mandolin player, but like that's it. And like Sam is great at guitar and has the guitar on his back on the journey the whole time.
Right.
Mhm. He's
Like
a guitarist.
that would have really worked. Kind of like it worked for what's her face, Sam's chick.
Mhm,
what's her face?
Rosie.
Rosie, but like she doesn't have a major role, but she was great in her role, and she was a
She's
great
incredible
flutist.
flutist.
She played
17
piccolo,
different
right? She played a lot of
flute-like
recorders.
instruments.
And like being a flutist, like I know that like, you know, like the fingering is all the same for those, but still like I also know that like she was good. She was also a good actor. She was a great performer. Everything was great.
I think she was the most
only person who
successful.
pulled it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seemed to be in like what they
I would say
what they
Sam-
were
But it
trying
worked.
to do.
It
The
worked
show.
for a
was
minor
also-
role.
Sam
Yeah.
was also good.
Yeah, Sam
but
was
most
good too.
like,
but he
except-
was less of a core musician player because he's a core.
But there were times
part of the
when
plot.
they had him play drums, and I was like, "Why is Sam
Why
on the
is
side
Sam on
playing
the
drums
sta-
right now?"
Yeah.
like he wasn't. Yeah.
Especially when like there were scenes where I'm like, "Sam could be over there.
Yeah. And it was
Why
just
is
really
he over
clear
on the drums?"
that like the music, because of that, basically what we're trying to say is that everything was like pretty mediocre
Yeah.
because everyone was just trying to do
and
too
it
many
is
things.
not the performer's fault.
Right.
No.
It is.
It was basically that what I felt was like, we don't want to pay an orchestra
Mhm.
That is
So we're gonna do
absolutely
this.
what it is.
Yeah.
because,
You know how much
If-
cheaper it is?
yeah, I know.
That
And those
is why
people
they
are
do
probably
it.
getting paid
And
shit too.
Mm-hmm.
And-
Ding,
but
ding,
it's like
ding, ding,
if
ding.
you
They
had
might even
had
get paid
exactly
more.
if you had like a
But it's still
couple
not.
characters,
They're getting paid more than they would just for acting.
yeah,
but
but-
that's not a full musician.
No, it's
No.
not.
They're not getting paid a full musician salary
On top of their actor salary?
because
No.
no,
actors are already getting paid less than the musicians are.
Mhm.
right?
So like to
And they're
to add
also
a
not
tiny
a-
bit on top of their salary
Right.
to like
And
also
they're also
play
not in the
music.
music union, for example.
Yeah.
So
That's
they're
exactly
probably
why.
trying to avoid all of that.
Yep.
Well, that's what I'm.
That makes me mad.
Mhm.
Honestly, that makes me mad. And
Yeah.
it could have worked if they had a core group of musicians, because I think that we did determine that there were two musicians dressed in costumes that
They were basically just
musicians. There was a bassist and a percussionist, I
Mhm.
believe. The percussionist moved sometimes, but
Yeah.
he wasn't like part of the ensemble.
Right.
But if they had had just a bigger core group, it didn't have to be huge even, but just, you know, like a core group and then a couple of the actors who could really kill it and pull it off, who their instruments like made sense with their character and like having them on them made sense.
Or sticking to that, or really sticking to the convention that they're like, we're not expected to be like watching them actually live out this thing, but we're watching them storytell.
Yeah.
At
Right.
at a pub where they're all playing their
Right.
I don't
instruments.
have a sword.
You know what I mean?
I have my violin bow is the sword now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like you actually like use the instrument. Not that you want to
gotta,
like.
you got to do. It's like
Yeah.
it is
It's all
it is the-
stylized.
it is the problem.
Yeah, but you could have had like a fake violin bow that somehow you switch.
Yes,
Or
of
even,
course.
oh my God, like,
But
Mhm.
they used the at one point. Someone was poking somebody else with a violin bow.
Yeah.
When I'm like, you don't. Is that?
That wasn't a
something you
convention that
have
you
right now?
established. It was freaking weird.
I don't know. Well, they were inconsistent. I mean, it's the same problem as when, and they actually do this in the show, where like I think the rule for props in a stage show is you either mime them all or mime none of them.
Yes.
That's
yes.
it.
You have to
either
do one.
mime
we
all
did
the
not follow
props,
that rule in this show.
or you mime none or mime all. That's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Like you can't like have a
spider.
teacup in one scene and then pretend to drink out of a teacup in another.
What
That
happened with
doesn't
the
make sense.
spider, Colin?
This- oh my!
Oh my god.
They have some cool puppetry. Like some of the puppetry really works. In fact, the spider
was
When it came out,
when
we were
it
like,
came out,
cool.
it was creepy.
Oh,
it's
it's
like
creepy.
really
It's
it
pretty
comes
good,
out
yeah.
of this
And then it came too
cave,
far out, and we're like, oh.
and then it stops, and then all of a sudden, it's like kind of like dancing around, and
And you just see the people in
like,
black going
Frodo's been
moving
like
around.
bit by it, and now he's like spinning on. He's like
And I'm
rolling
watching
on the
this,
ground.
And I'm like, I don't really know what's happening. This is so weird. We're discussing it later.
In the
and
car,
they're like,
yeah.
I can't believe they chose to mime him getting spun up in the web. And I was like,
That's what he was
getting
doing.
spun up. Oh
He
my
was
God,
literally
that's
just
what was
sitting
happening.
Yeah,
on
he
the
had
floor
no
of the
idea.
stage, just going in
He was
circles,
rolling his
his
body.
body
Yeah.
to
I
represent
thought the
getting
spider
spun.
was just. I thought this was just like
Yeah.
some interpretive dance where the spider was like, "Ooh, I'm attacking Frodo," and Frodo's like, "Getting attacked." And I'm just like watching it. And I'm like,
So he
I don't
mimed,
know
yeah,
what's
they
happening.
mimed that, and then they
then
mimed
mimed-
Sam cutting him out of it, and even
And
like
they
checking.
mimed him cutting him out of it, which I didn't. Again,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, because
that's what was happening.
Right, 'cause
I
he was
had
just kinda
no
like-
idea.
Yeah. And I was like, why did you even do that?
If you
Why
blinked,
did
you miss it too.
I literally did not know. I saw it all happening.
Yeah.
I watched it happen, and like it wasn't until later we were discussing. Like, I can't believe they mimed that, and I was like, they did what?
Yeah.
I watched it happen.
even worse
I didn't
now.
even notice that that's what they were doing. That is how. It's not just. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, like it pulls you out of like that suspension of disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so easy
Right.
to do that, but like it's actually also confusing. I literally didn't know
Right.
that's
but
what happened.
that's the thing.
you
Is
know
like
the
all
story.
of this was
And I
pulling
know
me
the story.
Yeah, and all of this was pulling me out of the story. Like I couldn't stay in it because I was like, wait.
And
Now she's playing. Wait, how many instruments has she played now? Okay, like, and I guess some of that
And
too
Pippin
is
was
like
running around with
I think
a
it's
cello.
harder.
With the cello
yeah,
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Through Moria, through the minds
like-
of Moria. There's
like
a
the
cello on
cello.
him. And then
Oh my
suddenly it's
God.
gone. It's like, you left your cello. Go get it. What are you doing?
So insane.
What is happening?
And I mean, I guess like being performers, it's harder for us to like forget those things when we watch shows because, you know, like we notice
Yes.
things that other people don't because we can
We
kind
know
of
the
project
logistics.
ourselves
Yeah.
into what it might be like to be in this show.
right.
But that's also like, if I'm thinking about that the entire show, that's really not good.
But I'm also going to this kind of show. Like I love the Lord of the Rings show, and I'm ready to suspend my disbelief.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Want
Like,
to. Of
there-
course, I'm going there wanting to. Like, I
Exactly.
didn't go there
That's
being
part of the
like,
point, too.
I
I'm gonna
wanted it
critique
to be
this.
I was like,
so
ooh,
good.
I'm so excited.
I was
I would have
excited
forgiven a
about
lot
this
of
show.
things.
Yeah.
too.
I also had I know I had listened to some of the music before, and I'm like, wow, this is really great. I remember being in college watching like video clips of the arena show where they're doing like amazing things, and it looks like this beautiful, this like huge immersive experience. And I'm
Wow.
like, wow, that looks really incredible. Like obviously Lothlorien, this big epic song where like silk performers are all around you, and you're like in the forest, like
Oh.
you're
Yeah.
like,
That
yeah,
would've been
that's
so
why
cool. Yeah.
that's why there are big musical moments that are like suspension
like
in
that.
time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we
when it
want.
would
We
make
want
sense,
magic.
because it is spectacle.
We
I
want magic
get
in
it.
every show, and this is especially happening in a magical made-up world. And everything was like either ripped off of the movie or like
Not
culturally
magical enough.
appropriated Indian costumes for the elves. Like when they came out, I was like, "What?" Like
is
it
this?
just looks like they went to Devon Avenue here in Chicago, which
Yes.
is like the Indian
Neighborhood.
mega
Yeah.
center of Chicago, and like went into a shop and like bought a bunch of stuff off the rack and then put it on the elves.
Truly.
And I was like, "You could have done anything.
It could've
Like
been-
it's
you
an
could have taken-
imaginary world,
I
and you
get
did
stealing
that
from cultures
Why?
and like using
Borrowing.
yes,
borrowing and adapting and that. But this was just like,
What about like that's the
I mean, it's just, like-
consistency problem again, where it's
It's
like
consistency.
sometimes it's the movie and then sometimes it's like this very quick fix of like, well, I'm just going to go to some cultural store and buy this thing. I don't know
yeah,
if that's
like,
what they
do we
really
do with
did.
the elves?
I'm sure they have a
Shit, we don't have
designer,
any
but-
more budget left.
Let's
That's
just-
kind of what it felt like.
Yeah, let's just go get a sari and be done. And it's like so strange. And then I mean, even on top of that, it's like just the suspension of disbelief where it's like even our technical elements are getting in the way. So in Lothlorien, it's like this very epic thing. She sings the big song and then she has her big speech moment where she's like offered the ring and she's like, I'm not good. I would be a queen. You would have a blah, blah, blah.
Again, I bet they just like and stole that speech from the movie.
They might have. It
I
might not
don't-
even be in the script. Who knows? I guess we'd find out.
I think
Yeah.
I would have sued unless that speech was literally taken. But
It's like from the book, I think, but-
like that is such an iconic part of the movie.
Yeah.
That I'm sure they're like, do it like
we have to do it like her.
Yeah.
We're
which she
gonna
didn't.
boom her voice and
Right.
But then they like lift her
Colin
up
because he's so
on this-
iconic. They're like, do it exactly the same.
This silly platform goes up and it like rises, and then she
And then you
finish-
hear it going,
yeah, and she finishes. She's like, I've passed the test, and it's like dead silent. And most of the time, there's like music happening. She wouldn't hear the things go happening, but there's dead silent, and the platform starts moving down. It's like
and it shakes for just like,
I've passed the test, and it's just like "Dudush." And I'm like, this is so weird. Who greenlit that? Who didn't just get like another pair of eyes to come in and be like, is anything weird here? Yeah, so much is weird here.
it's the thing is like it's clearly like those moments like Lothlorien it's clearly meant to be this big spectacle.
Yeah.
We're supposed to live in the like this is the moment where we're
It's
like
a beautiful
ooh, we're immersing ourselves. That's what this song is doing.
Wash of
But, like, this
noise.
is what it feels like if you just look at the show, it's not as much about the story as like giving you an immersive experience.
Yeah.
But being in a proscenium theater having like 2 moments behind you, which is confusing. Why?
Can't see
you're
them anyway.
suddenly
Especially like we were like, so like closer to the front. So I just had to be like, should I turn around completely?
Yeah.
How long am I gonna have to do
Yeah,
this?
like is this a big scene?
Is there gonna be a
This is
scene? Like I'll
important?
turn around if I have to, but if it's gonna be 3 seconds, which it always was.
It was very
Yeah.
short
Like,
every time.
Gollum entered from a rope 1 point behind us, and I was like, okay, that rope is not used in any other point.
I know, and the
There's
audience
like
is like,
2 other points where they're
"Woo!"
like talking from the
The boxes, yeah.
But that's it. And
Yeah.
they don't even use the spaces around us. Like it's not immersive. I'm just like standing, like watching them stand and sing on a stage, which is like fine. I'm not mad that there are times
That's most
where they
plays.
stop and
Right.
sing on a stage. But like, if the point of this musical interlude isn't about the plot, it's about immersion,
about
and
expanding
magic,
time.
then there needs to be something immersive
Why
and
didn't they just
magical
keep
about
it as
that
an
moment.
arena show? I guess it's.
Well,
Chicago doesn't have.
Chicago Shakes doesn't have an arena.
Well, I know Chicago Shakes doesn't, but there are other.
Who are you going to convince
Yes.
to put it up?
I don't know.
I mean,
could do
this
it at
was
this-
Chicago Shakes took this to adjust it. Like I'm positive that they saw the success of the Back to the Future musical
Mm-hmm.
and were like, we want in.
Yeah.
Like there's already a musical that's written.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Let's try to make it work.
We're grabbing a nostalgic show, putting it on stage,
Yeah.
and we're selling tickets.
But the
we
thing-
see it. It's happening.
Right. And the thing that was odd too is like most of the people seem to really enjoy it. Like
Yes.
right at the end, like everyone jumped to their feet to give them a standing ovation, and we were sitting there like, bitches. Like, we're
Becky
both
and
like,
I are like, well, that's so European of you too. Like in Europe, they don't necessarily always stand up on their
oh,
feet.
sometimes they'll boo, man. I mean, I'm not going to do that.
Like in the
Oh,
States, we stand for every ovation.
Yeah, I'll
is a
stand
standing
if-
ovation.
I
Okay,
Every
I guess
single
I
one.
forgot that.
Not everyone, but like
Most of them will be. Yeah.
I'll
But I was
stand
just really like, I'll
for most
clap,
of
but
them.
like, I'm not going to stand if I don't think
I
it
just
deserves-
wanted to. I just didn't want to be looking over people.
Yeah.
Like I just stood
Yeah.
so I could see what was happening on stage
Yeah.
while they're
Yeah.
just in case.
That's
but,
always
like,
ends up what happening where I'm like, well, I can't say anything. I have to
Right.
get up.
I was kind of like, I don't care. I'm done.
unless if it's like during bows and I really want to
Yeah.
celebrate someone, then I wait for their bow and then stand. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
like,
I think
otherwise,
that it like speaks to kind of like, I'm sure it's going to be very successful, like financially. I don't think it's going to move on, but it's like you can fool. Again, it's an instance of like how easy it is to kind of like fool the masses, not to insult the masses, but there's like it's very easy.
It just plays
to-
off of people's nostalgia.
Exactly.
I guess like there
We saw
is
people in
a
costume,
value.
like dressed up.
There's a
yeah.
value to giving people elements that they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People loved seeing the movie version of Gollum on stage.
They did. They really did love it.
I was annoyed.
I was very disappointed,
Yeah.
but people
I mean,
loved it.
Yeah. I was annoyed, and he did it so well that I was like, at
I
least.
get it.
and
that.
he did it so well.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Is like, and
Like, if he had done it
nothing
really
was-
badly,
the
I would-
none of the performances were horrible. None of the like,
No.
the singing, the playing. Nothing was horrible. Nothing was like, oh, that was bad. Like I'm sure a lot of people were like, that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that they did the whole story, which I will remind everyone again, you only know that because you know the story.
Yeah.
Right.
If you hadn't known the story, you'd be
You would've
very
been-
confused.
Or I don't know. I see. I watched Les Mis and I'm like, what is happening? I don't know. There's too many things happening at the same
Yeah.
time. I know I've seen it so many times at this point that I'm like, yeah, I know it now, but it took me like 3 times watching it in
Yeah.
a row to be like, oh, that's all the pieces. There's too much happening.
Yeah, there's too much happening.
And Lord of the Rings actually does less than
It does lessen.
Les Mis.
Yeah.
Really.
Because they like started and didn't finish. Another inconsistency. They started but didn't finish kind of choosing which story strings to pull. Because that, especially if you have a huge trilogy and you've got 3 hours maybe to do it in, you're going to have to be really choosy about what story you're telling.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going to expand any time with music.
I don't need no love songs.
No, there should have been nothing
This is
about
not-
love in
there's
this.
the-
Except for Sam and,
like
and Rosie. That's it.
C plot.
Yeah.
A C plot.
It didn't
love
mean
song?
anything.
No, we don't. I don't
No.
need that. We
I
don't
didn't
have
either.
time for that for this epic
No.
3-part trilogy smushed into one
No.
musical.
No.
We cannot have a full
And it could have
love
been,
song.
yeah, it could have been like so great, like we're saying, I don't remember which one of you came up with this idea, that like the Hobbit's retelling and stuff.
Yeah.
To even like
It was
just
my friend Teresa. Shout out. She had that idea.
Yeah. And like that it could have been really great to just like, okay, we're going to assume that the people coming are fans of Lord of the Rings, which I think is a pretty fair assumption. And even, there could have been moments of like, oh, like, let's act out this story. Like, no, let's act out this story. So it's like we're acknowledging that we're skipping something, kind of.
Right. You can even
like
talk directly to the audience.
Right,
You
like,
can
let's-
have them like
We're the
participate in
Hobbits
this-
too.
Oh,
Yeah, like let's act out the Battle of Rohan. Like, no. My favorite is the Battle of Gondor.
Well,
and then someone
let's
kind
skip
of,
it.
and then
Let's just
someone
do
kind
them
of says
together.
like, blah, 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 okay, this is what happened in the Battle of Rohan, and then you skip it.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been okay with that, but it's like
Yes.
you have to kind of, if you're gonna
Like,
cram this much crap into 3 hours, you have to acknowledge the fact that you don't have time.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yes.
Like that, you have to
let
do that.
us know that
and
you
instead
know.
it was kind of like, we're going to do this. Like it just felt like you were watching the movies on like fast forward, and then sometimes you'd pause and you're like,
What?
weird love duet. Okay,
It's
like,
like the DVD was scratched, and all of a sudden you're like in a totally different
Yeah.
scene, and you're like, wait a minute.
It was recorded on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
VHS over another thing. It just kind of like skipped in the middle there.
because like what I
Very
imagine,
bizarre.
like especially with how they started, they're like they had some actors kind of mingling with the audience at the beginning,
Yeah.
which I hate when they do that and they don't break the fourth wall at any other point.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, don't do that. Don't have that as a convention if that's not what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna make this like, hey, this is a show that should be done literally at a Ren fair where there's like 4 actors doing the whole thing
Mhm.
and interacting with the audience, and it's like a 45-minute show, and they do stuff like that where they're like, there's this whole battle scene, we don't have time for that. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like
Right.
bring in the comedy there, like
Yes.
like but then you can justify the music that's just like folky fun party
Yes.
music because that's
just
what
celebrating.
this is.
Yes.
Right.
We're telling a
just
story
having
while
fun.
having a little
Yeah.
fun folky little number. And folk music is usually like very storytelling forward.
Yeah.
Yes, and they
this
didn't. Why
music
did they do
wasn't
that?
They
doing
didn't do
that.
it. They didn't do it at all.
Yeah,
Isn't
like,
that
if you-
insane to me?
That's
the
true,
thing.
actually. I didn't think about that. That like so many,
so
especially
narrative.
like British Isles, that area of the world,
They're like, this is what
folk
happened, and this
music
is what
are
like
telling a long epic story. There's
An
so
epic-
much plot.
Yeah.
What a missed opportunity.
what
God.
a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
They could have
God.
had full, like huge arcs of time, like sung in a 2-minute song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they could have had like, things going on, like acting out like a little battle or acting out, traveling or, like
How much do you think that would require them to like really mess with the script?
This
I mean,
is
it would.
different.
they
It
should
would
just
have to
hire us to
be a different
redo the show. If they're
It would
watching,
just have to be different. Yeah.
they should just hire us.
I like a lot of the music
Yeah.
itself. It just like could be reworked. They really should though.
Like we should copy all these ideas are copyrighted. You have to pay us and we will come and redirect your show.
We're going to
Agreed.
rewrite it,
Yeah.
but we're going to use most of the music because we could just like put them in different places,
Yeah.
rewrite some of the lyrics. I mean, it's just so many of the conventions.
We'll
just the
rewrite. We'll add in
inconsistency.
Taking the Ring to Mordor.
Yeah. Taking the ring.
I can make it more folky. It's okay.
Yes.
I can do an adaptation.
Perfect.
Do an arrangement for like auto harp. And,
Yeah, because like there's even like the sweet moment with. Now, well, maybe we'll get there. When we get to our superlatives, let's have some thoughts. So
we don't have enough to talk about, guys.
yeah, I
don't have
know.
enough to
There's
say.
nothing left.
I mean, it just like
It was just really
In the end,
disappointing.
it was inconsistent, even though like there were things that were done well.
Mhm.
I guess like let's talk. We did spend a lot of time like trashing.
Sure.
Like let us take moments to talk about things that may
That were-
have worked.
Yeah.
I would say like the relationships that worked for me, Frodo and Sam,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
that was the only kind of like relationship arc that had any sort of meat to it,
Yeah.
that had a beginning, middle, end.
Right.
And that was the only like duet that didn't seem completely pointless.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really, I'm like, yeah, you could have made this like the Sam and Frodo musical. Like
Yeah.
you really could have focused on their journey through
Yeah.
this thing.
That's
Yes.
another thing, especially when
That-
they
it's
split. You
another
could
way
have
to
just
do
like
it.
focused on them.
Yeah. Focus on them.
Yeah.
I don't need to know about the rest.
And like sort of someone could have narrated what was going on with the other things without having to show us.
yeah,
That would have saved a lot of time.
absolutely.
Because that's the thing that we ended up caring about It's like it
Right.
showed me what the story was. What is the show? Oh, it's right here in this duet.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're talking about
I
positive
was like,
things.
oh,
Oops.
okay.
Oh God, yeah. I know.
But it's in context. Positive
In
things in
context.
context.
Yeah, yeah.
Of the show. So, other things. Though?
Other things. I liked the spider. I thought
I
the
said
spider
puppets.
puppets very
Okay,
cool.
Speaking of puppets,
Yeah, the puppeteers.
And the orcs.
Oh my God,
the
the hip-hop
the
orcs.
Black Riders.
Oh my
Black
God, the
Riders.
hip hop
the Black
orcs.
Riders.
The hip hop orcs.
Let's not talk about those right now.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. I do have thoughts about that.
So we're
but
talking about positive things right
Yes.
now.
Yes. Sorry, but I forgot about that.
Actually,
until
yes.
just now, I was like,
I think the hip hop orcs is a positive thing for me.
No,
I will tell you why in a minute.
refute.
But the Black Riders
yeah, they were great.
They
were
were
so cool. Those puppets
Yeah.
were cool.
I love good puppets, and like
Yeah,
those
the way
were
that they
good
moved
puppets.
was very believable.
Yeah,
in a
it was
way,
very
it was very
creepy
evocative
and,
of like what they wanted to evoke, and that
Mhm.
really worked.
It was simple enough, but also the puppets were pretty complex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the spider was also
orchestrated.
good. I think they could have done a lot more with more smoke and lighting
Mhm.
because when
Yeah.
the spider really emerged, like when you first saw it,
Like,
you were
oh,
like, cool,
like, oh my God.
because
And
there
then-
was
and
a
then I
lot
saw
of
the
smoke and lighting.
puppeteers, and I'm like,
And then
oh.
you just saw people in black going like, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, you could have shielded that with smoke and lighting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty basic tools that they were already using.
basic stage
Yeah.
magic.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's-
And
I
you could have
I
used a
always
sheet,
think-
like a silk sheet or something to like wrap Frodo in. Like, hello, like,
Yeah.
just like a big sash. You know, you can
yeah,
wrap
that
it,
could have
like,
been like trapped in like that. Like they could have had in like a pocket or something. You know, like
This could be very simple.
so
Peter
simple.
magic.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
this-
Because it was so folky, we would have bought that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Positive.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the puppet itself was cool.
Yeah.
and
Puppet's
could
very
have
cool.
been used and was used well until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that tends to be kind of like the story here. Because I even think the same with Belrog. I like what they did. I think
Yeah,
that's
that
a
didn't
great
bother
idea where it's like we never actually get to see the shape of the Belrog. We see this big sheet and there's like a lot of lights underneath. It looks weird from our perspective. We didn't get to see much.
Well, this is
Yeah,
what
it probably
I'm,
would have looked cooler from higher up.
that's what
probably
I'm
does.
guessing.
We were on the
That's
floor.
I kept being like, is something gonna happen? Am I missing something from our angle? Because we were like a little
Yeah,
bit,
and we didn't
like
even
it looks like it
see-
was cooler from a higher
It
angle.
probably is.
But I'm like, I'm just not sure what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, oh, something's gonna happen. And I waited. I'm like,
It's like, oh, nothing
But
happened.
But I think that like the music in that moment too, it was like there was a lot of suspense and they were doing things with the lights. And it
Yeah.
was like I kind of bought that moment.
I bought it, yeah.
I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I honestly, I think like all of the.
I didn't love it, but
I wasn't like, oh my God, this
Yeah,
is so cool. But I
sure.
was like, all right.
Especially
get
as
it.
like if we
I
were
said-
to kind of dumb it down and make it a little bit more folky, make it a little bit more storytelling,
Right.
Fourth wall breakage. It's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to like build up a Belrog.
Yeah, but it,
How
like,
do you
could have
do
been
it?
so
We
funny
haven't-
if you just
none
had,
of us
like-
know what the Belrog
Like a
looked
bunch
like.
of
Right.
hobbits like sitting on each other's shoulders, you
Could
know.
do that too. Well, that would be a good end, which they didn't even
Oh, that's
create.
true. Yeah.
The end. It was
Or, like,
just John
something
Lithgow's
like
voice.
very.
I know.
I
Sorry.
get it. Oh yeah. Okay.
Just John Lithgow's voice, but which is great. Love John Lithgow.
John
Positive.
Lithgow sounded great.
Great.
Sounds
Bravo.
great.
They used his voice.
He used his voice
as
for Treebeard.
Treebeard.
But I liked really kind of like all of the Hobbit stuff up until
Yeah, the part it started
did it
off
get,
strong.
like,
Actually,
Yeah,
I thought
it
that
did.
like Act 1 isn't terrible.
I think like some of these ideas that we have are because that like first little scene, even when they
Mm-hmm.
come out and they're interacting and they have this party and even the music at the beginning where they're like celebrating and
They
it's
make
like,
us a
oh,
promise.
we're bringing us into the culture.
Yeah.
This feels immersive. This feels like
Yeah.
we're part of this thing. And then
They don't do it anymore.
They don't. Again, they just don't keep it consistent.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, and we didn't mention too that two of the main characters were also playing other main characters.
Oh,
And they
yes,
did
the
not
doubling of the
Oh,
main
They did not
characters.
disguise that very well.
yeah.
Which again would work if they're storytelling.
Right.
You know, we can do less actors
And
even.
if it even add comedy, like yeah,
Uh-huh.
you see
Switch
them
out
like
hats.
putting on the wig, and then you see like or a hat.
But
or
I want to
something.
play Gandalf this time.
Yeah.
we could switch who's playing
Yes.
halfway through
Yeah.
and it would be justified. We
Right.
could. You know what
You
I mean?
could-
There's-
Right.
These brilliant ideas are copyrighted. Contact us.
Yeah, and it's and so I did like all of the Hobbit stuff because it really,
Yeah,
it built
I agree.
up this expectation that I was going to be in this Hobbit world, and it's just like, of course, it does. It falls flat.
It's
but
not
like,
consistent.
there are things that like really they touched on some things and just didn't live there.
Yeah. I still like some of the music.
I do love a lot of the music. Yeah, most of the music actually. I think the music sounds great. It doesn't necessarily do its purpose, but I think I like it.
And I wish they were like sparing about some of like, I guess like there are moments of actors playing instruments that worked for me. Like we said, Sam playing the guitar, even like Arwen playing the harp at one point, what could have been like,
because she's in Rivendell and she's just like hanging out.
Like an elf playing the harp and just do it. Like that seems like very like something that would be happening. Or Rosie even like playing the like there are moments where I'm like, that could be part of what's actually happening. And that's fine. Without it being like them running through a mine holding a cello. I think the cello was the biggest mistake for me.
This is a pretty incredible setup.
I can
was like
really,
hanging on his neck.
But like, you're never gonna like. I believe that you could have a guitar on your back or
mandolin, or even like a violin or something. Like
a violin too. Like there are so many.
Too big, and it's not meant to be played on the move.
No.
At all.
Never.
It's not a
in
traveling
no situation.
instrument.
Like there's it's not a marching band instrument. It's not a like there's no marching band versions of it. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
That's so silly.
It's too
it's so silly. I want to make a case for hip hop orcs.
Okay.
I will.
So
we will destroy you.
Yes. And so for you, dear listener / watcher, the orcs who first were the Black Riders and then they became orcs. They were like in like
they were like four dancers,
hoodies and like gas masks,
dancer puppeteer people.
Yeah, and it like moves us into like it was one of the inconsistencies about like the costuming. But I just want to give it a shout out because it was probably the most outside the box creative bit of costuming that they had and design, where everything else is either a cultural theft or just straight from the movie. And it was just, if they had started at the place of like, hip hop orc, not that that's what it was per se, but like, let's expand from there then. Like, let's make that the aesthetic. And like in the way that you have Gollum doing Gollum's voice, you have just, even up to the staves, the wizard staves looked exactly like the movie ones. And it's like, if you're going to do that, you have to do that then.
Right.
Why do they have gas masks and how does that translate to the rest of the aesthetic? And if you don't do that, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in context of what we saw, but I liked the courage of doing that particular thing as like, there's something interesting there.
I don't like
but
it.
Please move on. But it was inconsistent. Again, it was just another inconsistency. It didn't make sense with anything else. Their style of dancing didn't fit.
I also
the music that happened didn't fit. Their costumes didn't fit. Like it didn't work.
Yeah. I wouldn't want that choice though either. Like that's a distraction. If you're giving me this big epic show to put a concept on the concept already, it's too much for me. Like I wouldn't even. I see what you're saying. Like if we had expanded from there and like made it all that, but I don't think I would have liked that choice even if they did that. Because that's distracting. It's not.
I guess what I mean, it's like, it feels like those orcs were almost like found material stuff where it's like, our orcs are going to be like, we're just going to put on these, black suits and have like these masks and stuff. Like if we're talking about storytelling world, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then everything is like found stuff. The same way that we could imagine our instruments being the weapons that they carry.
Yeah, I can imagine a situation which it would have worked, but it did not.
It did not here.
No, it was bad.
And also, like, I think that it took me a minute to realiase that they were the orcs. I was like, these are supposed to be the orcs because randomly they were just like these like hip hop dancers and it
was weird.
And I was like, what? And then when they come into the battle, I was like, okay, there are 4 orcs in this epic battle.
Well, they kept just like coming back to life, like the battle,
because we didn't want to hire any more dancers because we got the puppeteer dancers.
Way too long.
Okay, we can keep it like a few of them if we're doing it this like presentational, really telling stylized. The story, not like we're expected to be watching a full battle on stage.
Or if it was like, oh, now we're going to be the orcs, and then the hobbits randomly put on the gas masks, and that's like the orc face. Like it would have been silly, and that could have worked. But again,
grab some plague masks, plague doctor
masks, fun.
But there's nothing about those costumes that I will forgive. I don't, just like you could have done it.
Noted.
You could have found masks.
Yeah, you could have found
That
and you could
that
have
are-
found things
that are
that were
in
like hoodie
in a
like
fantasy
that
world.
just were more like wraps or something. Yeah,
A hooded cape. Like who cares?
because
Like
it
you can
did
find
legit
it.
just look like
No, it's
Yeah.
just contemporary
it's
clothing.
just hip hop.
Everything was
looks
just
hip-hop.
stolen from the movie or completely random.
Yes,
Or completely random.
Like the elf costumes and the hip
And the
hop
orc
orcs. You're like
costumes.
both times we were like,
The
what?
elf- at least like the elf costumes, like they do like at Ren fairs and in medieval, like they do
No,
borrow
not even
from
that.
like
yeah.
historical ethnic clothing.
If it was like
It's
a
lazy.
nod,
That
no,
one was lazy.
No, I mean because they didn't
More
even
than-
They didn't do anything with it.
even try to
No, they
do
didn't.
anything imaginative. It was like literally off the rack.
It's
Absolutely.
just papyrus.
And I was like, I mean, obviously, like I think that garb is beautiful, and but it's just kind of like they said, like, oh, like we think of Indian culture as being like very mystical, so that could be the elves, and it's like if you had, we said this too afterwards when we were discussing, like if all of the elves had been Indian actors,
Mhm.
Indian American actors,
like if that was the choice, then-
or like South Asian actors or something like that could have also been interesting because like we are talking about different races
right?
Yeah.
of
And we do that in fantasy worlds all the time. Is
right.
like fully immersive. Like be like, oh well, as like in our world, we're used to this culture being very different than this culture, so we're just like borrowing from those cultures and putting them on stage. So yes,
Right.
if we're gonna fully go there, but
It just-
you're right,
it
it's just
was-
like very lazy to just be
very
like,
lazy just to pick it up.
Let's
is
go to
just-
Defiance.
this is just one of the. It's a.
and just put the hobbits in that, and that was like it.
That's so
like
weird.
I think they were even like wearing it over their hobbit costumes.
And I like, again, I wish it was just like, what do hobbits have around that they think is like an elf costume?
It could have
That's
been
what I
some
wanna
kind of
see.
Sash or
Not-
some kind of
right.
robe,
Not
or like
just like
Yeah, there's
'cause
so
it
many
just-
there's so
different
many
things it could have
easy
been.
choices
it
that
just
aren't
looked
just like
it was an Indian wedding.
Yeah, and that was only that one scene, really.
Yeah.
In the
So weird.
one,
Like as soon as it came out, I was like, what? No,
because even
What
like
is
the
this?
main character elves didn't really wear
No.
that.
no, they were like
They had,
wearing, I think, another kind of South Asian.
but it looked more
Maybe.
It
intentional.
looked
I
more-
guess.
it
Like,
did. It
their-
looked more
their-
It did. It looked,
Designed.
yeah, it looked a
which
little
makes
bit, yes.
those other ones looks even
Even worse.
worse.
They look not designed.
Because the other ones they at least like did something to them to like maybe put some kind of like design that you think
like
could
this
be
is
like an
specific character
elvish,
specific. Right.
you know,
It's a
like braid
fusion
or
thing. It's
something. Yeah,
Which is more in line with like borrowing from the culture rather than just like buying something.
Oh, I love the
yeah,
shape of this.
like let's
this
take kind of the shape
tunic.
of a sari
Yeah.
as the baseline, and then let's reinvent it.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Well, let's mix
I
up
could-
these
I could-
things.
Again, we
and-
do that all the
Yeah.
time in fantasy worlds.
of course,
We don't just like
and in
again,
fashion.
right? Because because that's part of creativity and imagination. It's like you take a little bit of this, you take a little bit of that. A lot of the creativity is in the combining. It's not about
Right.
coming up with a completely new
Right.
idea. That's not all that we're demanding, but just like, whatever, y'all.
Especially when it's in such contrast with everything else on the stage. It's gonna like
And even like the color,
stand
it
out.
was just like really like
Yeah.
like royal blue that was so much more saturated than any of the other colors
Mhm. Right.
used in any part of the show. It's-
Really confusing.
it looked lazy.
And this is
Yeah.
we're still on positives here.
We should probably start getting to our
Yeah.
ratings at this point.
Ratings.
Um,
Okay.
Mm.
So we'll go with story first. I mean, the Lord of the Rings story is excellent as far as how they
But this
told
is
it. I think I mean, it's like a 2. They like really failed.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a 2.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna give it a 1.5.
Wow.
Give it a
wow.
1.5.
Vicious.
Yeah.
It's just like and it goes up to a 2 just because I know the bones, just because
Yeah.
like the bones were already there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Right.
But I
And
feel
it's
like
not-
if you
it's
can't
not
understand
there.
that, like,
no,
yeah.
I'm not arguing.
No,
I'm
I
just-
know. But I think my arguing is that, and I don't know, if someone has seen this musical without
Having seen
having
them?
knowing
we'll
anything about
we'll
Lord
see
of
what
the
my
Rings,
parents
like,
think. I bet my mom doesn't
please
remember, so
send us a
we'll see.
message. Send them a message because I really want to know.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
my
Please, right in the
yeah,
Yeah,
because
like, write us in.
because like my feeling is just that like if you didn't know the story, you would have no idea what you're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, like I can't. It's a low mark for that.
Mm-hmm.
that's fair.
For sure. Technical. I think it's also a 2 for me. Just like the things that didn't work, the unthought through inconsistencies. There's some things that really did that were nice, and then but so much of it just didn't. And the failures of even just like Bilbo disappearing, and I don't know, maybe it'll be better on a different. I know he just like rolled off the stage because like the smoke didn't go in time, and
there can always be things.
There could always be things that go wrong.
On the night, like
that's the beauty of live theater. we are judging that particular performance of it.
I'll give it a. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I feel for the performers who are doing a ton.
They are doing so much work.
They're not doing poorly.
No,
I want to say like
you got this far.
Like these people that are playing like 100 instruments and like for the most part pulling off the performance. There's a couple like acting performances that I'm like, okay, not my favorite, but also like you had 3 lines and then you had to play you played
7
more instruments than you had lines. Like,
I bet they even
forgive you. I
bet they even got a direction of like, we don't have time for you to act this line. You just have to say the line. Yes. And so like a lot of times that just was translating to me like, that's kind of an important thing for you to say, but okay. And it's really, I do not blame any of the performers at all.
But I just wanted to like and some of the technical element, like there was creativity in some of the puppetry. There was some creativity in other things that I can't think of right now. But like there are, I don't know. I am.
You feel bad.
I think I'm going to go 2.5 to be in the middle of you and in the middle of the rating. Like I've seen a lot worse. And I could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay.
The end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially for like a Chicago show, not the worst technically that I've seen.
No, certainly not. I guess maybe like in comparison to what I was hoping for, but I give it a 2.
Okay, rewatch.
Rewatch.
This is tricky because I guess like personally, if I was just going based on what I'm not going to see it again. Like there's no way I would ever want to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
You recommend this to a friend?
I would say to somebody, I'm like, if you love Lord of the Rings and don't care that much about, like, there were people in the audience that were clearly having a great time.
Yes.
There were people crying during the Sam and Frodo duet. And I was like, I wish I was this into it. Like, I wasn't judging them. I was like, I'm happy for you.
At least, like, that song, I was like, thank goodness it's this song because, like, like so.
They were crying during the Arwen, Aragorn duet. I would have judged them.
I definitely would have judged.
I cried during that duet. It's like the Arwen duet is so weird.
Like, but I think some people will enjoy it.
Yes.
So
clearly, some people did.
And so I'm like, it's hard for me to say that it's a 1, even though I would tell people that it's bad.
Yeah.
And I would tell people that I don't want to see it. But I would also say, but if you love Lord of the Rings and don't think you're going to like care that much and want to kind of like live in that world for a minute,
you might
like,
have a great time.
Go and just know that it's just random bits of the world that you get to experience on stage.
Yeah.
If you like will enjoy that, then you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so I might put it right at the middle. I might say 2.5 just for that reason, because I do believe you can go and enjoy it. And there are people that I'm sure will want to go more than one time because of that.
Yeah, I bet you're probably right.
It's like that. It's that phenomenon. Like, I just want to be in the world and I love being in the world. And they have moments that are very good at that. Even just like the good impressions, even like the Frodo, the guy who he looks just like Elijah Wood. The guy who played Bilbo looks
just like Ian Holmes.
Yeah,
I was like, Ian Holmes, are you still alive?
And the creepiest thing was not the creepiest thing, but like it was so clear because when we were beforehand,
taking a picture.
We took a picture in front of
you
like,
might
this
see
backdrop.
it on our socials.
Yeah, because I wanted to take a picture with him because we saw the Lord of the Rings movies together. We go way back. And then suddenly there was like someone next to me and they were like, look to your left. And I was like, oh, Bilbo's here. Like, literally, it was like as if Colin had been there. Like, I recognized him instantly.
As Bilbo. That's Bilbo.
And I hadn't seen any photos. I intentionally went into this musical blind, but everything was exactly from the movie.
And Bilbo was in the picture
with
us.
So I was just like,
and we knew it was Bilbo because he just looked like Ian Holmes.
People will like it.
Yeah, they will.
People
They'll love
like that. So
oh my God, Bilbo.
Yeah.
Like trying to be open about that.
It was kind of a fun moment.
Yeah. And I think I'll give it a 2. I have to go see it now.
You are going to see it
today. I have to go today.
Just really wanted I am going to go see that again.
I'm going to go see it again. I will. I have tickets to go, so I'm gonna go see it again. I'm gonna actually see what the rewatch value is now that I see it again. I'm gonna see how it is. Yeah.
I would give it a 1.
Are you dreading it though?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Yeah, a little bit.
I guess I was supposed to see this tonight, and
You're very happy that you don't have to.
I'm doing something else now, and I was like, oh my god, I'm kind of glad I don't have to.
I know you have an extra ticket, and
I do.
I'm not asking for
Not
it.
jumping on it.
Yeah. So womp womp. Cool. Those are our ratings.
Good.
Oh, did you get
Yeah,
yours?
I said I give it a 1.
Oh, 1. Okay,
Ooh,
great.
Great.
I have no apology.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Apologies.
Ratings in the bag. What was it? Da-da-da-da, ratings.
Ba-ba-da-ba! Rated.
We might use that just like forever now.
Yeah, because you made me repeat it right after I did it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Beep, boop, beep.
superlatives. Oscar moment.
I guess I will say that duet between Frodo and Sam was because the only time that I was like, oh, I guess I kind of care about them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
That, yeah.
I'm not sure. Go first.
I thought
You can
that
too. You don't have to.
on their face, like the Gimli moments about Galadriel were cute.
Oh.
Yeah, I really noticed Gimli's kind of like interaction with Galadriel and how he like.
I was
That
just
actor.
distracted by the confusing dialect work. So.
Sure, yeah, well, maybe, but
And again,
I
Not
thought that it
his
was like a
fault.
very genuine, like he has like a big crush on Galadriel, and I just thought it was cute.
Great.
That's it.
I guess I would just say the actor who played Gollum's performance, like as much as it pissed me off that it was a complete copy of the movie, that was not his choice.
Mm-hmm.
And he really went for it and got the
He
voice
absolutely-
physically. It was
Yeah.
great. It was probably my
he
favorite.
did nail it.
performance.
He
Yeah.
really did.
Yeah.
Like,
He was
if it's
climbing
gonna
all
be an
over the
impression,
place.
it needs to be that good.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
did. He pulled it
Exactly.
off for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it was only the creative choice that made me mad. It
Yes.
was.
Oh, yes.
It had nothing to do with his
him.
performance.
He was
great.
like more than excellent. He was like, it was
Yeah.
a very good impression, very good performance. Like his physicality was
Yeah.
incredible. Like he
Was
was like
incredibly-
very strong,
yeah.
like doing incredible things. Yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
Unearned moment.
I would say empty stage for tree ants. I just don't understand it.
God.
Like
What?
The Ents.
The
There were
Ents.
Oh, the Ents, yeah.
were.
the hobbits were just like talking to the
The
air,
Uh-huh.
the wall. There's like a voice, a booming voice, and they're just kind of like
It's
looking.
like kind
And
of
then the five
like
like
leaves.
projections
and then
of like
five leaves
five leaves
falling
fall.
from the ceiling.
Yes, and then projections of like vaguely green things.
Of like vines around, like
Yeah.
but that happens in other.
Yes.
There's
So
nothing
weird.
that like again other than the 5 falling leaves and the voice in the sky. They didn't even pick a point to look at. Like you know what I mean? Like there
Yeah.
was not a.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
they didn't even show us where Treebeard is. Yeah.
There was no choice made on like what the Ents were supposed to be. It just
Yeah.
was like they're around
Yeah.
somewhere, and it was just a voice. And I'm just like, this is lasting so long too. And I'm like, are we getting a reveal? What's happening?
Yeah.
Is the big wood?
it gonna be
the
like,
knot
yeah,
in
is the
wood, is that gonna
Nignot?
be an eye? Is
Like that would have
like-
been cool.
Yeah.
But no, they did not do that. You got one
Like,
that you like?
I have a lot, so it's
Mhm.
like, how do I choose?
I think the one I want to choose, like, I'm
the
most
first one, like, you're
disappointed with.
I almost said the orc costumes because that was the most
You can
maybe.
be, but the Sam and
What do you say?
Frodo duet, very sweet moment, and everybody like crowds them around them, and there's like this like ethereal moment. It's like,
So specifically, like the instrumentalists, who
Instrumentalists-
aren't actually technically there. That's
yeah,
who's crowding
and they're like crowding around them to like put them in this little cocoon. I'm like, get away from them! What are you doing in Mordor?
And-
Get away from them!
in this intimate moment.
In this intimate
yeah, and then
moment,
he had a moment with Rosie, didn't he?
yes,
Rosie
Where
took
she,
his
like,
guitar.
took his guitar.
But then they like had a moment. Too,
Yes.
when
Yeah,
they like
that's-
looked at each other and were like, and you're like,
And I'm like,
you're
what
not
is-
there.
You're not there, Rosie. It's that easy to get to
Yeah.
Mordor? Rosie just shows up. It's like, let me grab that guitar for you. Excuse
Yeah.
me.
Like even then, I'm like, I know this belief I'm supposed to be suspending right now, and
Yes.
I am mad.
And
that
I'm
you're asking
bad
me
that
to
you're
do
asking me to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hated that.
I know it's supposed to be like in his mind, he's thinking of Rosie. It's like too on the nose. I'm like,
Mhm.
no.
And you
Yeah.
haven't done that.
I've like I'm like actively being like, I won't suspend my disbelief.
I refuse.
I don't wanna.
I don't
like it.
Yeah,
Like, I don't.
truly. Because, and it's because they're inconsistent. They're trying to do the storytelling thing for a show that they weren't doing that the whole time. They were telling it to us straight.
Yeah.
Oh, that was infuriating.
It's inconsistent.
I guess maybe like really towards the end. I mean, I had this moment, I don't know, like where Gollum, after the tussle, falls into Mount Doom. And then there were like the puppeteer dancer people, like I guess all in black, but like very clearly there though, because they also didn't try to make an illusion with smoker lights. Like just picking him up and like twirling him around, and I just bust out laughing. Did you laugh too?
Yeah, we laughed.
And I was just I guess both of us have the same brain. And we like, if you bust out laughing during the dramatic climax, I said traumatic climax of the show, not a good sign again.
Yeah, it's like that was a bad choice.
And then I will just put as like a side note, like a end cliff note, whatever those are called.
A footnote.
Footnote. Thank you. Oh my gosh. That then like 5 seconds later, Gollum coming back as one of the hobbits without taking his makeup off, and you could just see like his like sunken in eyes,
because he clearly like had like 3 seconds to wipe off his makeup and had like streaks of it left,
right? Because to like narrate.
He's fully like as Gollum, he's fully made up.
Well, I think he might have been in some sort of like body stocking actually that was painted.
Sure, maybe.
But his face
but like his face, like that's the important.
Maybe
like
not, because they had like a lot of I don't know, but it was like so clearly like Gollum's a hobbit now, like. And then also
give us a little narration.
Yeah, and also Boromir, like the second he died, he was just in like playing an instrument with the hobbits for the rest of the show.
And
also Bilbo, and who is also the steward, but also then the steward dies, and then he's like playing instruments on the stage, and like
just
he's all of a sudden has a trombone, and you're like, what is this? I don't understand.
But this moment of Gollum falling into, because it just looked like a raise the roof, like body surfing moment kind of. I guess that was like what was so silly, and then again that like they didn't do anything with the lights or smoke, and it was just these four men like.
But again,
and him being like.
And we could get away with some of these like moments when if we're like, oh look, hobbits are pulling each other up and doing, you know what I mean? Like if we're like, we're not pretending that there's not people lifting you up.
Right.
If we're like
smoke, lights.
Show us like you have to.
That's how you hide.
Yeah. This is like an all or nothing kind of thing.
I have never studied theater tech, but I've been in a lot of shows. Like this is how you do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have like crazy
you
like
mime it all,
things,
or you mime none of it.
Or they even have that platform that like went up and down. Like, why not like use that to like put him on and then instead of just like
we've been doing
surfing.
this. We've been doing this trick for a long time. The witch has melted so many times, disappearing into the floor. It's like it's just silly.
Or have a sheet of lava.
Something.
Like,
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just like making this stuff up, and I already have like 5 ideas that are better than that. Do we have another one, or are we?
Do we have another? We didn't talk about this beforehand. Superlatives. How about
most distracting instrument?
Most distracting instrument.
Let's say it on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cello.
I mean, but
there were a few.
The trombone was
very
I forgot about the
distracting.
The trombone.
Who played the trombone?
Bilbo.
Yeah.
I'm like Bilbo.
After playing the harmonica.
Harmonica.
Oh my God.
He
and I was like, that's not even something that I could pretend that I thought was in
Middle Earth.
Middle Earth.
I don't know what this is.
Forgot about the trombone completely.
Oh my God, like the trombone.
And the thing is, like, it's not like the instruments were consistent through the show. Like all of a sudden there were instruments. I'm like, but I think that one there.
No, but I think it's just because they wanted to hire him because he looked like Bilbo in the movie, and then they were like, "What instruments do you play?" And he's like, "Harmonica and trombone." And they were like, "Shit, okay, like let's score this. Let's arrange this for like at." Honestly, probably. That's probably how it went down.
I think the trombone very confusing.
Oh man.
And anytime the actors picked up a new instrument, I was like, "Why are you just playing the mandolin?"
Unless it was related. Those are actually tuned the same. Oh. And because I know that, I was like, okay. But then she was playing the guitar. I'm like, that's not tuned the same. you know, and like
quality
I was
was
kind of like
different too.
aware of some of that
But there
kind
was
of
other
stuff. but I
people
was
that
like,
had played the violin in many other scenes, and I'm like, why is Mary doing it in this
Yeah.
scene?
Yeah.
and like
when it was
everyone's
that
a drummer.
guy over
Everyone's a
there, and then
drummer.
everyone was a drummer.
And again, like
Everyone
they
was a
could have had like
drummer.
little hand drums that they could have had like on their person that would have been more
Well,
folksy.
they had like one of the box,
And then there was a hidden
box.
keyboard.
and a hidden keyboard.
Oh yeah.
Boo.
I was like, you're not even showing the keyboard? No, because it's an electric instrument, and you're not committing to the bit.
Yes. Oh man.
They could have even like made
But
up
they
a little
had some-
like
they
a
could have
little
had
like MIDI keyboard that could have been wireless, and they could have like painted it to make it look like it was like wooden or I don't even
I don't
like
know.
could have-
Something.
No, maybe that's too much. Okay,
Yeah.
Scratch
No,
that, scratch
fully
that.
folk.
I don't like
fully
the idea
folk.
anymore.
Fully folk.
If you're gonna have actors on stage
Yeah.
playing the instruments, pick 4 and just do it.
Yeah.
Just like make it like a little folk.
Oh my
Just
god.
like keep it simple.
That's stupid
Don't have
cello.
a French horn come out and then,
Oh, the French
Oh
horn.
my god, there was a French horn
There was
too.
a French horn. There was a French
which I
horn.
like the sound of.
Yeah,
like,
the
the sound of
sound
a French
worked
horn
in really well.
but
is
it's like
great for
Yeah.
that.
Why is there a French
I'm
horn
not. I'm
now?
not mad about a French horn. A French horn looks cool.
Yeah.
Like I love a French horn, but also a French horn's hard, and it's
Mhm.
like to watch someone play it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not that,
Flat.
but and it's hard. Like it.
I
it
mean,
always
sometimes there
sounds-
were tuning issues, but that's the thing too, is like you have to tune all the time
Yes.
to be able to do that. And
And
people are
now-
just
You
like
don't have
handing
time.
off instruments that are then getting cold, and then you're picking them back up. And,
And then
like,
you're like running around the stage.
And
it's like
playing
you
them
If you
while you're
ever
running
watch
around, I was
instrumentalists
like-
in the pit between things, there's like,
yeah,
like,
there was
warming
like,
up their instruments.
yeah,
or, like, doing lots of-
retuning a little bit. Yeah, totally. You have to, with some instruments, you have to do that constantly.
it's never going to sound.
Yes.
if you're doing a show this long, and they didn't have time. So like
course
when
not.
things were out of tune, I was like, this is not their fault. This is just
No.
again a technical
Yeah.
catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. Boo.
And if you kept
Ooh.
it to guitar, violin, mandolin, and some hand drums, like
Maybe a French horn moment and the flute.
I love
we love
the
the
flute.
flute, the
We
love the
recorders.
flute.
Yeah,
The
yeah, we
recorders
loved
are
it.
very cool.
because
Keep
like
the bass
that
in the back,
really,
fine. Some drums, and that's
Fine.
it. That's all you need.
Ugh.
Because also they like piped in some like pre-recorded music at some points. Did you notice that?
I did not.
They did. They did. And I was also like, okay, so like if you do that, then we actually don't need to have this mess.
Then you don't need to have
Well,
instruments.
that's what I was like. I was
Oh
wondering
my
if that was like
God.
if the keyboard, because you couldn't see the keyboard, but you saw the person playing the keyboard. Like I don't know if you said
I
like
did not.
it's on the right side of the stage. There was like somebody was sitting
Oh
down
my god.
playing a keyboard behind.
I did
like you
notice
couldn't
them.
see
Yeah,
the
yeah.
keyboard, but you saw them sitting and doing
Sure.
something and watching. That's the other thing. I was like,
I guess
sometimes
it
the
could be
instrumentalists were just like
possible.
watching the thing that was
Yeah.
happening. And I'm like, are you supposed to be like?
Are you in the scene?
What is the choice?
Or
What is the
Yeah.
choice? Are you like?
are you a tree? Are you the Hobbit and you're the memory of the Hobbit? Are you
the like they're the things in their mind that are supporting them, which is like sometimes the choice. Are you like what is it? I don't know.
Maybe the piped in music could have been like some synth, and then I
maybe.
didn't notice. It's possible.
That's what I'm curious. Like if if the keyboard,
But also
was
like those things are so good now that like you could have actually used that in like a interesting way that would
Mhm.
have been a lot less distracting.
Uh-huh.
but they didn't
Ugh.
want to pay musicians that were in the union
Yeah.
to play off stage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they had them all play on
No-
stage so they
no
can
one
pay them
wants
as
to pay
actors.
musicians, let me tell you.
Well, I think because from my understanding, even the musicians that were just musicians were paid as actors.
Who knows?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I have heard through the grapevine.
Drama.
That they're like not a part of the union, and it's like a little bit
Okay.
unethical. Maybe,
Maybe. We don't know.
This
Yes.
is not. I don't. This is not confirmed.
Right.
I just
It's the rumor mill.
it's rumors, so I like don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, but that's
Yeah.
it's
But it's
Do
I
not
wouldn't
sue
you know,
us.
yeah.
We don't know.
How about best and worst change from the story? Like from say the movie perhaps or like the base.
mm-hmm.
Like I would say my favorite thing, and maybe it's clearer in the books, I don't remember now, but like I really am compelled by Frodo's decision to keep the ring as a, like knowing that it's the reason the elves are leaving is because the ring is going to destroy all the rings and they won't have their protection anymore.
I guess is that not
It wasn't explicitly stated in the film. I never
Not
got
in the
that
film.
before.
So we're talking about, you're specifically saying from the film?
Yeah,
Because like again,
probably.
this show
I don't
predates
remember
the film. So
that's
like,
the film
it
is what
might
I know.
be based on
Yeah, that might be more based on the book.
on the book. So
Yeah.
I'm
I don't remember
I don't
in the
remember
book
that
now,
either.
And that's
It's been
when
a
I-
really long time.
but in the movie for sure.
I just assume because I'm also like not. I've seen it multiple times. I've seen all of the movies, and we had all the
Yeah.
extended versions. I've seen them all multiple times, and I like know the story pretty well. But I never like care to like be that specific about the details. But
Yeah.
so some of the things I'm like, I feel like that's different, but maybe I'm remembering it differently. But also like it could be that the movies also made their own choices that
yeah,
different
Yeah.
from the books, which I am okay if like I like
It's
when the
executed
musical is
well.
departing from the
yeah.
movies because
Yeah.
like it's a fully different medium. I don't know. I can't like think of a lot of
Well, think of a bad one then.
I guess like I just was confused about the steward.
Yeah, the combination of Gondor and Rohan.
Yeah.
Where it's like it was one thing.
Yeah, it did.
With
Yeah, and
no
also him
Rohan?
being like sleepy and
I
was
remember
very
it
confusing.
being confusing in the movies
Yeah.
for me too.
Mm.
But like in this, I was like, but I thought I understood it. Like I like
well, in a way, it's confusing until he's like let go of the spell, and then
yes.
right.
So it like
It's kind of like,
But
you're like,
as-
what's wrong with him? Like, what's happening? Yeah.
I would say like when I first watched it as a kid, I remember being like, I don't really understand. And then, like, but you're right, it like reveals itself, and I think that's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like a higher like I just was very young when I
Yeah.
first like I was
Yeah.
young middle school.
Yeah.
I think when they started to come out.
That's wild.
There was another thing that came up that, again, I do not think was in the movie and could have been in the books, but it's just been way too long since I read them. That, like, when they first started introducing the relationship between Arwen and Aragorn, that, like, they had said something like that she's known him since he was like a little child. And I was just like really creepy. Like, also, like, we don't have time for that detail if you're gonna like fast track this romance. Like, that's like kind
it's
of
like,
like,
why did you give us that? That's
like,
so weird.
she's immortal, but
I
like,
think they do
like
say that
he
in
had a
them.
thing for her.
Something
so she
about
was
that.
10.
I remember that from the movie
Maybe,
too.
but there's so much time to develop that relationship in the movies.
Yes.
They take
But
like
because
these kind
it's
of
so
like
quick
out
in
of
the
time
musical.
moments that last a really long time, but
Yeah.
they're really
You
beautiful.
actually get to see like a relationship build.
Right,
In
and
this,
I mean,
you
of
don't see
course,
anything.
Yeah, and
In
of course
the-
it makes sense because she's immortal and he's not. But like I just thought it was like a
you
weird
look
thing to
older,
like
and
right
better,
and right,
I'm like,
yeah,
Oh God.
yeah, and like right as they were like kind of like this like
Yeah.
moment that it was like I knew.
no, no,
Why?
Well, I think like because we don't have very much time in the musical, like we don't get the full like in the movie, it's so like you really feel the like she's immortal. Like there's this like timelessness that you feel.
Yeah.
You feel an expanse of time. They give you an expanse of time in the movie. And you don't have the time. We don't have the we don't have the privilege of getting to feel
Yeah.
expansive time in this musical. We don't like
Yeah.
there's
And
not
they
enough
also
time.
didn't do a lot of effort to make Rivendell very magical either. Like the
No.
elves were always so like the same in the movie that it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And again, like where was the smoke and lights?
yeah.
I never thought I would talk so much about smoke,
Smoke and
and lights.
lights.
Smoke and lights.
It's like most of
basic
theater.
theater magic.
That's all.
I mean,
theater.
like,
That's basic.
Watching the Harry Potter play.
Every opera I'm like choking on the smoke. Like, come on. Like I know
Yeah.
that
Right.
we're using this all the time.
But like going to see the Harry Potter play, yes, they use some like really cool technology, but some of the most magical moments, I'm like, that was like old school theater
Yeah.
magic that
Yeah.
they just did. And it is so exciting. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man,
There's
Sometimes
so
it's
many
so-
options.
Yeah.
it's so good
All in all,
that they could have done it. They
V
could have done
disappointing.
so simple.
All in
like,
all, we
things that are
loved it.
simple.
Go see it.
wink, 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 wink. Let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot. Get your sign off ready, folks. Thanks for joining us, and please follow us on all the social medias. You can like and review us on wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on the YouTube, and check out our social medias for extra stuff. I'm Pavi Proczko, and remember, if you really need to get something done, you just call up those hip hop orcs. They'll get it done for you. Dying on that hill.
Gross. And I'm Colin Funk. And remember, do not have actors running around with cellos. Just don't do it.
No.
Stop. Just stop stop having actors play instruments. Totally. Done. You're done. It's over. Cut it.
Agree and don't agree. Okay, but we've been over that. I'm Rebecca Sorensen, and remember, smoke and lights will just hide a lot of your flaws.
Smoke and lights. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Two Grooms, One Plot, a Pavitas Productions project, hosted by Colin Funk and Pavi Proczko. This podcast was produced by Chicago Podcast Studio. Our opening cartoon was created by Gloriu, and our theme song was composed by me, Pavi Proczko. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite listening platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Two Grooms, One Plot for updates on new episodes and behind-the-scenes content. If you have any feedback, comments, concerns, or kudos, you can email us at twogroomsOneplot@gmail.com. Please rate and review us wherever you can. It would help us out a bunch. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.